Hello. I would like to sort of blow the whistle on a bit of dishonest marketing by the Vantrue company here. I recently purchased their N4 3-channel dash cam, which is purported to be 4K. Now, one thing that you might miss is that it's only advertising 4K if you only use the front camera. If you use any other combination of all three cameras, which you're going to do because you just got a dash cam with three lenses, that's the whole point. It's not going to record in 4K whatsoever. So that's a bit of advertising chicanery on the part of Vantrue. But as it turns out, none of that matters at all, because none of these lenses actually record in 4K. All this is a digitally upscaled 1080p dashcam. And the way I discovered that is that I took screenshots of all the different resolutions. 1080p, 1440p, 1520, and 2160p, which is 4K. And I'm going to zoom in here in this 1080p shot here to this particular sign. And you'll notice that you cannot read any of it. It's completely mush. And so theoretically, with true increase in resolution, you have more pixels to be able to devote to a smaller area, and therefore with every resolution increase you should get a bump in detail. So every time I go up, more and more of this should be easier to read. By the time I get to 4K from 1080p, I should be able to read this whole sign. So I'm going to switch here to 1440p. I'm going to zoom back in. As you can see, it's still completely illegible. Same is true with 1520. And if I go up to 4K, once again, there is no increase in detail whatsoever. I can see exactly as little of this as I could in 1080p, which shows that it is not a 4K image whatsoever. It's just a digital upscaling of a 1080p image. And to sort of nail this home, what I've done here is I've taken screenshots of all these various resolutions, and you can see here that there is no difference in any of them, no functional difference. It's all completely crap. And so we're not dealing with a 4K camera here. Yes, they've added more pixels and they've made a larger file, but that is not an increase in resolution, in true resolution. Now, the thing that is so frustrating about this is that on a practical sense, this camera is pretty good for what you need. You know, there's an awful lot of motion blur and there's lots of aberration and whatnot. But when you actually get closer than about 10 feet, you can see pretty clearly everything that's going on. And you can see here that if I pause it in particular, you can see this license plate number, this one, and this one over here. And that's pretty much all you're going to need. A dash cam is primarily used in situations of automobile incidents where you need to know detailed information about what is directly surrounding your vehicle. You don't need to resolve images that are 20 feet away. It's not relevant to the practical use of the camera. And the same here with the rear camera, which is in 1080p, but as I've mentioned, it's all in 1080p. It's pretty blurry when it's moving, lots of motion blur, but when it gets closer and you pause it, you can see everything that you need to. And so in terms of a high definition dash cam, this is pretty much all you need, which is great. But the problem that I have is that this is really dishonest marketing. by Vantrue. What they're doing is they are selling a 1080p camera as a 4K camera, and all they've done is basically used an enlargement algorithm to upscale the image digitally. And this doesn't create any more detail, so it's not 4K whatsoever. And I purchased this with the impression that it is going to have a high resolution, which it doesn't. And if it had just said that it was a 1080p camera, then that would be fine, because it would be exactly what it's advertised as. And so all they're doing is they're counting the number of pixels, and they're sort of getting away with a bit of false advertising here, because the resolution can be considered to be based on the number of pixels, but how you get to those pixels is the important part. If you have a true resolution increase, then it's going to be more pixels and more detail, when all this is here is more pixels and the same amount of detail, which is functionally a useless upgrade. So I think that if you're in the market for one of these, you should be very careful about the claims that they make and what you buy into, because it very well could be that this is not what it purports itself to be whatsoever. And so I feel like I was kind of ripped off. So buyer beware here.